Heavy rain, flooding, thunderstorms, and strong winds. In South Louisiana, severe weather can strike at any time. This is the Storm Tracker Team 2020 Severe Weather Special.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel. This is the 2020 Severe Weather Special. This year marked the start of a new decade, and we begin tonight by taking a look at some of the worst weather events to hit Louisiana and the Southeast in the last 10 years. On Christmas Day in 2012, an EF3 tornado moved at least 24 miles through Pearl River County, Mississippi. 8 people were injured. In 2016, prolonged rainfall caused catastrophic flooding across Louisiana. The capital region saw some of the worst. Livingston Parish was one of the hardest hit areas with more than 3/4 of homes destroyed. 8 rivers hit record flood stages, including the Amite and the Comite. 13 people were killed. On February 7, 2017, an EF3 tornado touched down in a densely populated area of New Orleans East, injuring 33 people. This would be one of 6 tornadoes to develop in the area that day. An EF3 tornado destroyed homes and hurt people also in Watson. And of course, 2019 alone saw plenty of severe weather. In April, an EF3 tornado killed 2 people in Ruston. It leveled homes and damaged several buildings at Louisiana Tech. In June, a tornado hit the Exxon plant in Sorrento, just southeast of Baton Rouge, injuring 5 people. In December, a tornado traveled 63 miles from DeRidder to Alexandria, killing a woman in Vernon Parish.
It can take years to rebuild after weather events like these. Kara St. Cyr shows us how one man is still trying to piece his life back together after the EF3 tornado in Watson 3 years ago.
It's hard to pick up the pieces of the past when there's nothing left. Dallas Irwin has been trying his best to build up from nothing for 3 years now.
All of the noise and everything, I knew it was bad when I was in the house. But when I walked out, it went by and I walked out the house, it looked like, man, it was way worse than I could imagine by the noise.
A year ago today, Irwin would step outside of his home and see his land completely ruined by an EF3 tornado that had hit part of his street.
I had mobile homes here that I had rented out. It just tore them up like crushing cornflakes.
The mobile homes would eventually need a crew to remove them from the power lines across the street.
I was really depressed right at first because, I was just getting up on my feet just a little bit and then boom, and I'm back down past where I was at.
Now, 3 years later, almost nothing has changed for the better. His house caught fire after the tornado, and he hasn't been able to rebuild since. Instead, he and his girlfriend have been living here. They bought these 2 mobile homes and have been living in both. Despite the circumstances, Irwin is trying to make the best of what he's got.
Just keep struggling forward. You gotta keep on keeping on.
For now, Irwin is saving as much of his Social Security checks as he can and growing his own foods to save money. He says he'll keep on keeping on until he's built something from nothing.
Irwin says he's been saving up for a new home and he hopes to buy it soon.
As you just saw, tornadoes are some of the most destructive natural disasters on Earth. But modern forecasting prevents more damage and loss of life than ever before by giving enough advance warning for you to get out in time. And luckily, there's a team finding new ways every day to alert you and our community before weather turns nasty.
I think the biggest thing at this point is just people paying attention. There's a million things going on in the world, and people have a million different interests.
Ben Schott, meteorologist in charge from our local National Weather Service, or NWS, suggests always have a game plan that's easy to activate when severe weather strikes. Luckily for us, we've got a great team on our side that continues to work hard alerting the public.
There's been a lot of advances in the science of meteorology, especially when it comes to forecasting the conditions for tornadoes and then actually issuing the warnings for them.
Meteorology is not an exact science. However, it continues to improve by leaps and bounds every year.
We're able now, 3 to 5 days in advance, pretty much say that there's going to be severe weather.
The NWS has added new tools to improve our forecast models and therefore our prep time for incoming storms. GO satellites can now map lightning and can produce more frequent and higher resolution images, all of which make forecasts more accurate and more localized.
The biggest thing is our computer models, and they're getting better and better.
Weather balloons are now launched 6 to 8 hours in advance of a potential severe weather outbreak. It's the last look into the atmosphere before the storm arrives. Are winds turning with height? Do we have enough available moisture? Schott says these are all things that are important when it comes to issuing watches and warnings.
But there's also other signals. The radar technology improvements allow us to see that stuff even before the tornado's on the ground as it's descending towards the surface.
With the advancement of dual pole or Doppler radar sites, it's becoming a game changer in issuing early warnings. Any increased lead time is better than none. When it comes to a tornado, 1 minute could be the difference of sleeping in bed to being in your secure and safe place.
It's not 100% yet, but we're starting to get to the point where a lot of that is really allowing us to key in on that and start to issue the warning a little bit sooner than what we would have, just a decade ago.
Researchers are currently working on a process that could alert you to a tornado 15 to 20 minutes in advance, which they say will save a lot of lives.
You may be familiar with the term Tornado Alley. It's an area in the United States prone to a high number of tornadoes each year. And while there are no agreed upon borders, the consensus of what defines Tornado Alley consists of parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Iowa. Then there's Dixie Alley, which includes Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana. There are a lot of similarities between these two regions. For example, tornadoes can occur at any time, but they are more likely to occur in the spring months when warm and cold air masses collide. Something different between the two regions is how deadly the tornadoes are, even though most tornadoes occur in Tornado Alley. Dixie Alley experiences the most fatalities. I spoke with Benjamin Schott, the head meteorologist at our local National Weather Service office, to find out the reason.
The difference is how well can you see what's coming towards you. As you hear in the south, there can be little hills, trees, things that you don't see as much as you get in the plains where you can see that tornado maybe 2-3 miles away. So there's some visibility restrictions that can cause some safety issues for us here, and that can make all the difference.
On average, Louisiana experiences 37 tornadoes annually, but over the past decade, the number of tornadoes exceeded average. In 2019, Louisiana saw its highest number of tornadoes since 2009. You can see this sharp increase, but the reason for it may be one you haven't thought of. Schott explains why.
The increase, I think, in the South, a lot of it has been just due to the population growth and also with social media, where those reports are filtering back to us at the Weather Service, and then we're able to either confirm or deny whether there was a tornado there.
In the coming years, it is likely that the number of tornadoes here in Louisiana will increase, not necessarily due to environmental reasons, but due to the betterment of technology and, yes, social media. While social media has played a major role in helping meteorologists identify areas with storm damage, it is important to note that not all damage comes from tornadoes. Sometimes the damage comes from straight-line winds, which can be just as violent, if not more violent, than tornadoes. To find out what caused destruction following the storm, our National Weather Service sends meteorologists to survey these areas and categorize them. I spoke with Schott to find out more about the strength of tornadoes.
There was a study back 15-20 years ago from some folks looking at the structural damage and the wind speeds it took to do that damage, and it created the enhanced Fujita scale.
The enhanced Fujita scale rates tornadoes based on estimated wind speeds and related damage. There are 6 classifications from EF0 through EF5, and on February 7, 2017, we saw 4 out of 6 of those categories. EF0, or gale tornadoes, have maximum wind gusts between 65 and 85 miles per hour. Around 10:50 a.m., an EF0 tornado traveled just shy of a mile between Elmwood and Old Jefferson. The tornado maximum wind speed was 80 miles per hour, and the result was minor roof and tree damage. EF1, or weak tornadoes, have maximum winds between 86 and 110 miles per hour. About an hour later, Donaldsonville saw an EF1 tornado with maximum winds at 105 miles per hour. Along its 6.11-mile track, the tornado caused downed power lines, minor structural damage, tree damage, and roof damage. EF2, or strong tornadoes, have maximum winds between 111 and 135 miles per hour. Between Killian, I-55, and Madisonville around 10 a.m., an EF2 tornado touched down with 125-mile-per-hour winds. Trees were snapped or uprooted, a barn was destroyed, and there was property damage. Aside from that, this tornado caused 3 injuries. EF3, or severe tornadoes, have maximum winds between 136 and 165 miles per hour. Finally, a devastating EF3 tornado struck New Orleans around 11 a.m. Winds reached 150 miles per hour and led to damaged homes and gas stations and destroyed and overturned cars. This tornado resulted in 33 injuries. EF4 and EF5 tornadoes are rare, and in the past decade, we have not seen any of these tornadoes. To learn about EF4s, we have to cross over to our Mississippi neighbors. EF4, or devastating tornadoes, have maximum winds between 166 and 200 miles per hour. On April 28, 2014, an EF4 tornado with max winds of 185 miles per hour moved between Renfro and Louisville, Mississippi. Along the 34.1-mile damage path, the tornado destroyed homes, apartments, farms, and even industrial buildings. 10 fatalities were reported, but the injury number is unknown. An EF5 tornado is extremely rare, and to find one, we have to venture into Tornado Alley. EF5, or incredible tornadoes, have maximum winds exceeding 200 miles per hour. On May 20, 2013 in Oklahoma, a catastrophic tornado with winds over 200 miles per hour traveled from Newcastle through Monroe and South Oklahoma City. Property was destroyed as seen in these photos, and damages exceeded $1 billion. 24 people died and more than 200 people were injured.
Also, it's important to understand the difference between a watch and a warning. For example, just think about cooking jambalaya, a watch. We have all of the ingredients. Get ready to eat soon. The environment is now possible for tornadoes. A warning, it's time to eat. We have a tornado on the ground, or at least indicated by Doppler radar, and an emergency. No more jambalaya. It is a big deal. A significant tornado is on the ground, and it could be deadly. That's why we need to follow these safety tips. Driving in a vehicle is never safe during a tornado. Find an exit, get off immediately, and get to a gas station or box store. If you don't have a chance to get to a safe place, abandon your vehicle, get to a ditch, lay down, and cover your head. If you live in a mobile home, have an exit plan already in place. Mobile homes are not safe structures when it comes to high winds. Have another place already in that game plan, somewhere to go. It could be as simple as going to the local convenience store to find something that's a little bit more sturdy. If you're at work or school, follow the instructions of the tornado drill. Many institutions of learning, along with places of employment, already have a designated safe area in case of a weather emergency. Hallways, bathrooms usually make good and safe places to be since they're usually window free.
You're watching the Storm Tracker Team 2020 Severe Weather Special with Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel, Meteorologist Ashley Ruiz, and Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax.
Before disaster strikes, it's important to be weather ready and have a plan, including how you'll keep your pets safe. We went to Companion Animal Alliance to get tips on making sure your four-legged friend is included in your severe weather plan.
Pets depend on us, their owners, to keep them safe when danger is imminent. In the event of a disaster, timing is everything. You want to be prepared before a disaster strikes. The first step to take is to make sure your pet is microchipped and has updated ID tags.
Microchipping is one of the absolute best ways to reunite a pet with their owner. It's one of the only permanent methods we have to identify a pet.
Make a special emergency kit for your furry friend. The kit should include medical records, any medicine they need, a recent photo, basic first aid supplies, food and water, and bowls to put them in, beds and blankets, and an extra collar and leash. Be sure to prepare a safe space for your pet, one that you can move quickly.
Take something like an airplane type crate or carrier and create a little home for them. And you should do this before an emergency even occurs. You should get them used to that space and make it a place that they go to when they're nervous.
You may want to bring a few toys and a blanket to put inside the kennel for an extra level of comfort. If you have an anxious cat or dog, consider purchasing a calming vest or talk to your vet about medication. Pets often find comfort in their humans, so try to remain calm before, during, and after the storm.
Pets feed off of our energy. And so if you're acting nervous and you're talking to them in a high-pitched voice and you're expressing your concerns about a storm to them, they feed off that.
And if you are forced to evacuate or find shelter, be sure to bring your pet with you. And if you get separated from your pet,
go to your parish's shelter. So if you're in East Baton Rouge Parish, come here, look for yourself. put eyes on every animal. It's what we encourage anybody with a lost pet to do.
Social media can also be a powerful tool to get word out about missing pets. Remember, severe weather can strike at any time, so it is important to have your plan ready to go all year long.
For information about other pets such as horses or reptiles, you can head on over to our website, brproud.com, or download our free BR Proud app.
Clouds are packed full of electrical charges. When the charge gets strong enough, the energy gets released. A bolt of lightning is formed. Lightning can heat the air to around 50,000 degrees, which is 5 times hotter than the sun. Obviously, if you can hear thunder, you are close enough to get struck by lightning. That's why it's important to follow these safety tips.
If you're outside and caught in a lightning storm, move indoors immediately. However, if you're stuck outside and nowhere near a safe shelter, avoid open fields, hills, and trees. If you're in a group, spread out and avoid water and metal objects. There's no safe space during a lightning storm. If you hear thunder, you're likely within striking distance of a storm, so your best bet is to head indoors. Remember, when thunder roars, go indoors.
You're watching the Storm Tracker Team 2020 Severe Weather Special with Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel, Meteorologist Ashley Ruiz, and Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax.
Welcome back. Floods can affect anyone and are the most common and really the most costly natural disasters in the United States. Without flood insurance, it may be too expensive for the owners to repair or even rebuild. I talked to experts who say everyone is at risk, even if you're not in a flood-prone area. Flooding can hit almost anywhere, not just in places considered high risk.
A lot of people will say, well, I don't need flood insurance because I'm not in a flood zone. Well, the fact is here in Baton Rouge in South Louisiana, we are all in a flood zone. That we may be in a less likely to flood zone or maybe a more likely to flood zone, but we are all in a flood zone. I mean, we live next to the Mississippi River, so we're all prone to flooding. In fact, in 2016, I think 25% of our flood claims were in areas that were considered not in flood zones.
Just an inch of water can cost you more than $25,000 in damage. And State Farm agent Ken Kenley says flood insurance can be the difference between recovery and financial ruin.
Flood insurance will cover your dwelling as well as your contents. And if you are in a preferred flood zone, you can buy a flood policy relatively inexpensively that will cover $250,000 for your dwelling and $100,000 for your contents.
An average policy will cost you $325 a year. That's less than $2 per day. And luckily, there's no need to shop around. The National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP, was created to minimize rates.
There is a 30-day waiting period before, in most cases, before a flood policy becomes effective.
So it's important to plan ahead. Talk to your agent and make sure you know what your policy covers. Some claims may be covered by your homeowner's insurance, but others may not. A falling tree on your car is covered under the comprehensive section of your auto policy. It's also smart to create an inventory of your belongings.
Take pictures. Go through your house room by room. Put your receipts, your valuable papers in a safe place, in a deposit box, something like that, so that you'll have a record of your contents.
Kenley also suggests preventative maintenance before a storm threatens.
Perhaps you need to have your tree limbs trimmed up, maybe even taking some trees down. A lot of our bigger claims were because of tree damage that caused roof damage and then interior water damage. But the major damage that we saw were because of trees that would fall across houses.
After the storm, assess the damage. Then, if needed, call your agent and file a claim. An adjuster will usually arrive within 48 hours. If necessary, make temporary repairs like placing a tarp on your roof to prevent further damage. Kenley also noted, beware of people knocking on your door. Watch out for scammers. Make sure contractors are licensed and insured. Insurance companies have a list of verified contractors and preferred body shops to help speed up the claims process. Also, flooding is the #1 weather-related killer in Louisiana. More than 26 deaths have occurred in Louisiana since 2010. All it takes is 12 inches of running water for a car to get swept away. It only takes 6 inches of water to sweep you off your feet. So that's why it's so important to follow these safety tips.
Don't walk through floodwaters. All it takes is 6 inches of moving water to knock you off of your feet. If you are trapped, be sure to get to the highest possible point and call 911. Never walk into a room where water is covering any electrical outlets or cords are submerged. If you hear any buzzing, see any sparks, get out of the room immediately. The water could hold a current that could electrocute you. Never drive through flooded roadways and never drive around barricades. The water could be much deeper than it appears and hold hidden dangers such as sharp objects, electrical wires, or the road could be completely washed out.
You're watching the Storm Tracker Team 2020 Severe Weather Special with Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel, Meteorologist Ashley Ruiz, and Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax.
Thank you all for joining us for the 2020 Severe Weather Special.
And we look forward to bringing you the latest forecasts, radar, and tips to keep you and your family safe throughout the year.
Have a good night, everyone.